Okie dokie, today we're going to be talking about the Warframe player housing system that's going to be coming in the Angels of the Zariman update within the next month, and why I am kind of wildly concerned that it's gonna fucking suck. But let me get into why, and let me outline my fears and the reasons for why I have those fears, given the history of Warframe's housing-esque attempts. We'll say. Now, for those of you who have no fucking clue what I'm talking about, on the recent dev stream, they showed that we'll be able to return to the Zariman, and we'll be able to access the areas that we were able to reach during the new war, and the little housing areas you saw in your playthrough. Now every Tenno will have access to their own apartment. The apartment features a holodeck, a groundskeeper bot, it features a kitchen with very, very old food, and that was about it. They didn't really show anything else. Maybe there's more. Most likely, I feel there is not. And that really blows. Now let me explain why in comparison to the dojo, the orbiter, and the drifter camp, because these are all areas that emulated a housing system to some capacity and kind of sucked. And trust me, I recognize the irony in the dojo guy who spent literally thousands of hours on that shit saying that it sucked, but let me explain here, because the dojo itself doesn't suck, but as player housing it blows complete ass. So the dojo is an area you can build with your clan. You have a limited number of rooms that you can build, but you of course have a decent variety. You can build labs for research, you can decorate if you want, you can fund those decorations with resources, and then that's kind of it. But once you get your blueprints from the dojo, and once you're done with your railjack, like, you fuck off and you're done. There's no reason to come back to the dojo anymore whatsoever, other than to bypass the 20% trade tax at Maru's Bazaar, which is why most people build like a solo clan as a solo player, just because they don't need to really bother other than maybe the occasional research and just to skip trade tax because they don't want to deal with that. Now, in comparison to the orbiter, the major difference between the orbiter and the dojo is you cannot place decorations for resources. You either have to buy shitty decorations from Ticker or Grandma, for which there is not a very large variety, or you need to sink your teeth into your wallet and take a healthy chunk out there, buy a shitload of plat, and then buy a fuckload of orbiter decorations, because they cost plat. And then what sucks extra hard on top of that is orbiter decorations take up more capacity, and if you're not familiar with the capacity system, basically in the dojo, there is a max number of decorations that can be placed, and the capacity of any given room, the highest it could possibly be is 1600. So at best, you can place 1600 decorations. Now, some decorations that are more intensive on the computer can take up more capacity, up to 20. The vast majority of dojo decorations only take 1 capacity. Meanwhile, in the orbiter, the vast majority of orbiter decorations cost 5 capacity and cost plat. So in addition to having to really shell it out, you need to cut down drastically that 1600 capacity limit down to like a 320 decoration limit at best, most likely even less, since a lot of the cool orbiter decorations cost like up to 10 or 20. And so the orbiter is extremely limited in what you can do with that because of that. And every orbiter room only has 1600 capacity, so only about 320 decorations. Now, the drifter camp is basically the orbiter split in half with a massive, massive outdoor area. It's bigger than some dojo rooms. And that outdoor area is counted as an orbiter room, which was extremely disappointing. So that means you can only use orbiter decorations, which means you can only get shitty decorations from Ticker or Grandma, or sink your teeth into plat for plat decorations. But then again, it's a massive open area with 1600 capacity, meaning only about 320 orbiter decorations can be placed in that entire area, which made no sense, but it was what it was. But overall, it has the same functions as the orbiter. The only leg up it has is in exchange for a slight inconvenience when going from the top to the lower half of your orbiter, you get a really cool outdoor area with a nice view that has a day and night cycle. But otherwise, at least there's a reason to return constantly, unlike the dojo. Like, you want to build anything new, you want to upgrade your mods, you want to socket your iatans, all that jazz, do that in the orbiter. So far, the only housing-esque space that you really return to is the orbiter, besides the fact that you have to launch missions from it and all that jazz. And don't tell me that people launch missions from the dojo other than to get the good map on index, so just don't even try that. But now in comparison, we have this apartment, and it has jack shit. Now, Reb did say that we'd be able to decorate it with decorations old and new, but I can guarantee that these are going to be personal decorations, aka orbiter decorations, meaning that you might be able to get some new in-game purchase ones from like a vendor in the new Zariman hub, but there's not going to be a ton. Other than that, it's just going to be a plat sync. again, aesthetically, it's kind of cool with the holodeck, I'll admit. Like, it kind of reminds me of that Prometheus scene with David, but I don't see a reason to continue coming back there. And maybe they will blow me away with what they'd end up doing with that, and I could be very wrong, but I just don't anticipate that being the case. And let's maybe talk about what makes good player housing, because there's housing-esque attempts that are really neat and, you know, you can get benefits from, and then there's some where it's just prestigious, you know, to even attempt it. Kind of like Final Fantasy XIV, the housing system there, value is placed on it because they've limited the market for it entirely. Not every player can get a house in Final Fantasy XIV. There's seriously a limited number, and it's actually hell to try and purchase a house in that game. And as far as I'm aware, and I haven't looked into it too much, but there isn't like a whole lot of incentive other than to just have it and decorate it. And maybe there's something else. Maybe you can like store stuff. There's probably like some storage. Maybe you can have your retainers do something there. But beyond that, that is a cool housing system. I don't think it's a great housing system. I don't think, from what I understood and what I saw, there's like a real great reason to really return or enjoy the space. Now, some people are going to disagree with me on this next one, but Destiny 2's Leviathan Tribute Hall. That was a fantastic housing space. Now, granted, you couldn't customize it, but for people who are not familiar, let me explain. So Destiny 2 had an area called the Tribute Hall on a giant spaceship. It was actually an enemy spaceship, which made it even weirder. But the place had a vendor. The vendor could give you bounties, quests. There were basically statues that you could unlock for doing certain things throughout the game, and it would unlock different statues, and there were tons of spaces for these statues in this gigantic golden hall. And then once you got a certain number of statues, you could unlock a hidden quest, and that hidden quest helped you unlock a hidden exotic weapon. And then once you continued with the statues, if you got them all, then you were able to unlock a catalyst that made that exotic weapon even stronger. And so not only was there a reason to just go there for that weapon, but there was also a reason to come back, because they would allow you to stock up on heavy ammo before a mission. And for those of you who are not familiar with Destiny, it's basically the equivalent of stopping into a relay to get the damage bonus before you head out on a mission for like a survival or an endurance run, etc., etc. Not quite the same, but that's the rough equivalent for Destiny 2. And then on top of that, not only was there a reason to come back even daily, you know, for bounties and stuff, or to stock up on heavy ammo, it was also like a simulacrum, because you could, you know, kind of summon enemies, you could test movement techniques. I remember I was testing movement techniques as a hunter way back in the day when I was trying to see just how far you could get a hunter to go, that kind of jazz. But the Tribute Hall was a fantastic housing space, but you couldn't even decorate it. And I still consider it a housing space, just because every player had their own. It was their own unique hall. And I remember like going on a mission and someone being like, hey, does your hall have heavy ammo? Let's stop there real quick before we go. And we'd be like, oh, okay, let's go there. But the Tribute Hall was phenomenal. But in comparison to Warframe, and I don't want to compare the two games because I recognize that they're so very different. So please, if you're getting ready to keyboard warrior up in the comments section and be like, oh my god, Vash, I don't want to hear it. This is not a discussion that we're having. We're talking about housing. Like, Warframe has nothing like that. There's no incentive to return to a personal space. There's incentive to return to, like, Fortuna and stuff, the Cambion Drift, etc. For bounties, so you can stock up on shit there. Like, there's more reason to stop there than there is a personal housing unit, and that makes sense, but there's zero incentive to return to a personal housing unit in Warframe at all. Like, there's nothing to bring you back there, other than to pretty it up and say, voila. Now, the other thing that makes housing systems neat, in my opinion at least, was, and this was literally on the Warframe survey, NPC interactions, and that kind of falls back at the same thing with Callus's Tribute Hall. You had the vendor there, and you could talk to the vendor, you could get bounties, there was quests, there was stuff like that. And now I know some people are gonna be like, oh Vash, but we have that in the Orbiter. And I'm gonna stop you right there, because talking to Space Mom's magic floating hat to send you across dimensions, and touching a magic glowy ball where you kneel in your personal quarters does not count as an NPC interaction. That was, there was a meme about Elden Ring where they said, you know, when FromSoft doesn't know how to connect two in-game areas, and then, you know, the whole coffin SpongeBob get in thing. That's like the equivalent in Warframe of the story bit. So maybe Maybe in the new apartment we'll get another like Chimera prologue-esque teaser for something else later on, for Deviri Paradox maybe, and I suspect that's actually going to be the case to some degree. It would make a lot of sense if they did that. But overall, that doesn't count. Because especially if they do that, then all they've done is made it so you have to go out of your way to get to this specific housing system, just so you can go touch a glowy ball or a magic space mom floating hat to progress a quest. In which case, I personally think that is really dumb. But again, I'm not trying to shred their design choices, and I could be wrong on very much all of this. But I just, given my experience with Warframe and their housing attempts so far, I really don't think the housing system is going anywhere good. But of course, I might change my mind. They might show us something different. They might change it later on. Overall, flat sync, waste of time, just another place to pretty up. I don't see the point. But I guess in the meantime, I will clench my cheeks in anticipation for anything to prove me wrong, because I really hope I am.